In the last Trail Building 101 video, we talked about bench cutting. And in today's video, we're talking about 5 keys to building the perfect off-camber sections. Woo! It's cold. The first thing that you need for a good off-camber section is a clear sight line. With off-camber sections, you need to be able to see where you enter, where you exit, how long it is, everything. None of it should be hidden from the rider. The moment they show up to that off-camber section, they need to know where it starts, ends, exits, how much grip they have, and exactly what it looks like and what to expect. Unlike a blind corner with a berm, you can't just press into the berm knowing that it's going to spit you out in the right direction. The off-camber is really heavily reliant off of what the rider does. And off-camber is very plain. There's no berm or anything to indicate in which direction the rider has to go. So they have to actually see the exit to know where they have to end up. A clear sight line is also really important because they have to actually be able to see if there's a catch at the end, which leads us into our second point, which is a clear exit and a good catch. It's important to remember that off-camber doesn't have nearly as much grip, so the rider will often compress right before and lift up over the off-camber. Now the problem is they have to come back afterwards, so they usually need a bit of grip, flat section, or even a berm at the end of that off-camber section so they can press back in and regain control. And that is what I'm calling a catch, because you're lifting up over the off-camber and it catches you afterwards. Hopefully. Other than having a catch on the exit, make sure that you don't actually place the exit so far off that the rider physically can't turn enough. You want to keep the overall line of travel straight or with a very slight turn, and if it turns, it better have a catch at the end. Hey guys, Future Jan here. I just realized I recorded all of that and I did not talk once about what an off-camber section is. So real quick, an off-camber section is basically just tread that is angled. It's as simple as that. Bench cut, off-camber. Back to the video. Okay, so we've talked about having a clear sight line all the way through. We've talked about the exit. Now, the third point is having a good entrance. If anything, the entrance is probably the most important thing. It should be built in a way where the rider can compress before and lift over and float over the off-camber. That way they don't need as much grip as they typically would. Also, really just be careful not to construct the entrance in a way that forces the rider to turn much more necessary. A good example is the trail up there in the forest we've been building. We first originally built it with a very tight line. All we then did was come back and change the entrance, and it made a world of difference. The fourth tip is to make sure that the rider enters with controlled speed. Don't let them go too fast and don't let them go too slow. This is different for every project. This is different for every off-camber section. Some sections you want to go slower because the entrance and the exit really aren't that great. For others, however, going slow would mean that they just would take too long in the off-camber section. So they might have to go faster just to basically float over the entire thing. Now, before we get into the last and final tip, I want to talk about a couple things that you should watch out for when building an off-camber section. First thing to watch out for is trail creep. If the riders are constantly drifting, skidding, and sliding down your off-camber section, you have not built it correctly, and the trail will start to creep down the hill bit by bit. Your trail is going to change, it's going to cause erosion, and it's just not going to go well. This can't always be prevented, sometimes it's just part of the deal. Just make sure that you keep on top of it and maintain it when necessary. This is why I haven't done a tutorial in a while. It's so like blah 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 blah. Blah. Roots. Eventually all the dirt's just gonna disappear and it's just gonna be a bunch of slick roots and it's just gonna be really disgusting and suck. So no, just don't include them. And as usual, bear in mind what the erosion is gonna do, where the water is gonna pile up, and just general water flow stuff. The fifth and final tip is to just picture yourself riding. I know, right? It should be built in a way that is confidence inspiring and intuitive. Try to avoid anything that's gonna catch them off guard and just gonna make the overall experience very sketchy. For epic trail building videos, check out the playlist. And if you found this helpful or entertaining, please consider subscribing. We release weekly trail building content. And we build trails here. It's as simple as that. Cheers.